Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session of the B text of Doctor Faustus by Christopher Marlowe and collaborators. Discuss. It is a long time since we did the A text, and we did a first look and a second look of the A text, according to my memory. But we've left a long gap to come back to the B text because the A and the B text are not that different for quite a lot of the text. Certainly most of this session is going to be going over text that there are some of the odd line differences, minor tweaks. We may rattle through this one relatively swiftly, but we will see what comes out of the room as we look at this later printing. There's all sort of questions about, which came first, which is more representative, and things which we might discuss to a degree. But opinions flip flop every so often as to which came first and which is more important and which is the thing, and B or A, or both or whatever. If that's your jam, you stick a spoon in and enjoy it. Anyway, reading today, Doctor Faustus is
Lois in London.
Reading Valdes, Robin, Lucifer, Roth, and Bruno is
Lynn in the damp, chilly northwestern United States.
Reading the chorus and Mephistophilis is
Sarah in The Hague.
Reading Cornelius, Dick, Envy, Sloth, and Pope is
Alan, already confused in Suffolk.
Reading Wagner, Belzebub, and Raymond is
Hi, I'm American. I can only spell two of these names, and I'm melting.
Reading Good Angel, First Scholar, Covetousness, Lechery, Cardinal of France is
Rachel in Canada.
And joining us for the first time, be gentle everyone, reading Bad Angel, Second Scholar, Pride, Gluttony, and Archbishop is
David in Bath.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading Stage Directions. I will also be reading The First Friar, for reasons I can't quite remember at this time. So without further ado, we're going to dive into the text. We start with a chorus, which is remarkably similar to the A chorus, with, I think, some very minor differences. Prologuers with an opening chorus, please.
Not marching in the fields of Thrasymene, where Mars did mate the warlike Carthagins, nor sporting in the dalliance of love, in courts of kings where state is overturned, nor in the pomp of proud audacious deeds intends our muse to vaunt her heavenly verse. Only this, gentles, we must now perform the form of Faustus' fortunes, good or bad. And now to patient judgments we appeal, and speak for Faustus in his infancy. Now is he born of parents base of stock in Germany, within a town called Rhodes. At riper years to Wittenberg he went, whereas his kinsmen chiefly brought him up. So much he profits in divinity, that shortly he was graced with doctor's name, excelling all, and sweetly can dispute in the heavenly matters of theology, till swoln with cunning of a self-conceit, his waxen wings did mount above his reach, and, melting, hence conspired his overthrow. For, falling to a devilish exercise, and glutted now with learning's golden gifts, he surfeits upon cursed necromancy. Nothing so sweet as magic is to him, which he prefers before his chiefest bliss, and this the man that in his study sits.
And we can infer an exit. We go into the first scene of Act 1, and we have enter Faustus in his study.
Settle thy studies, Faustus, and begin to sound the depth of that thou wilt profess. Having commenced, be a divine in show, yet level at the end of every art, and live and die in Aristotle's works. Sweet analytics, 'tis thou hast ravished me. Bene discerere est finis logices. Is to dispute well logic's chiefest end? Affords this art no greater miracle, then read no more, thou hast attained that end. A greater subject fitteth Faustus' wit. Bid on Kai me on farewell. And Galen, come, be a physician, Faustus, heap up gold, and be eternized for some wondrous cure. Summum bonum medicinae sanitas. The end of physic is our body's health. Why, Faustus, hast thou not attained that end? Are not thy bills hung up as monuments, whereby whole cities have escaped the plague, and 1,000 desperate maladies been cured? Yet art thou still but Faustus, and a man? Couldst thou make men to live eternally, or, being dead, raise them to life again, then this profession were to be esteemed. Physic, farewell. Where is Justinian? Si una eademque res legatur duobus, alter rem, alter valorem re, etc. A petty case of paltry legacies. Ex hereditare filium, non potest pater, nis, etc. Such is the subject of the institute and universal body of the law. This study fits a mercenary drudge which aims at nothing but external trash, too servile and illiberal for me. When all is done, divinity is best. Jerome's Bible, Faustus, view it well. Stipendium peccati mors est. Stipendium peccati mors est. The reward of sin is death. That's hard. Si peccasse negamus fallimur, et nulla est in nobis veritas. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and there is no truth in us. Why then, belike, we must sin, and so consequently die. Aye, we must die an everlasting death. What doctrine call you this? Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Divinity, adieu. These metaphysics of magicians and necromantic books are heavenly. Lines, circles, scenes, letters, and characters, aye, these are those that Faustus most desires. Oh, what a world of profit and delight, of power, of honor, and omnipotence is promised to the studious artisan. All things that move between the quiet poles shall be at my command. Emperors and kings are but obeyed in their several provinces, but his dominion that exceeds in this stretcheth as far as doth the mind of man. A sound magician is a demigod. Here, tire my brains to gain a deity.
And enter Wagner.
Wagner, commend me to my dearest friends, the German Valdes and Cornelius. Request them earnestly to visit me.
I will, sir.
Exit Wagner.
Their conference will be a greater help to me than all my labors. Plod I ne'er so fast.
Enter the good angel and Spirit, the bad angel.
O Faustus, lay that damned book aside, and gaze not on it, lest it tempt thy soul, and heap God's heavy wrath upon thy head. Read the scriptures. That is blasphemy.
Go forward, Faustus, in that famous art wherein all nature's treasure is contained. Be thou on earth as Jove is in the sky, lord and commander of these elements.
And exit angels.
How am I glutted with conceit of this? Shall I make spirits fetch me what I please, resolve me of all ambiguities, perform what desperate enterprise I will? I'll have them fly to India for gold, ransack the ocean for orient pearl, and search all corners of the new-found world for pleasant fruits and princely delicates. I'll have them read me strange philosophy and tell the secrets of all foreign kings. I'll have them wall all Germany with brass and make swift Rhine circle fair Wittenberg. I'll have them fill the public schools with silk wherewith the students shall be bravely clad. I'll levy soldiers with the coin they bring and drive the Prince of Parma from our land and reign sole king of all the provinces. Yea, stranger engines for the brunt of war than was the fiery keel at Antwerp bridge I'll make my servile spirits to invent. Come, German Valdes and Cornelius, and make me blessed with your sage conference.
And indeed, at that moment, enter Valdes and Cornelius.
Ah, Valdes, sweet Valdes, and Cornelius, know that your words have won me at the last to practice magic and concealed arts. Philosophy is odious and obscure. Both law and physic are for petty wits. 'Tis magic that hath ravished me. Then, gentle friends, aid me in this attempt, and I that have with subtle syllogisms gravelled the pastors of the German church and made the flowering pride of Wittenberg swarm to my problems, as the infernal spirits on sweet Musaeus when he came to hell, will be as cunning as Agrippa was, whose shadow made all Europe honor him.
Faustus, these books, thy wit and our experience, shall make all nations to canonize us, as Indian Moors obey their Spanish lords. So shall the spirits of every element be always serviceable to us three. Like lions shall they guard us when we please, like Almain rutters with their horsemen's staves, or Lapland giants trotting by our sides, sometimes like women or unwedded maids, shadowing more beauty in their airy brows than have the white breasts of the Queen of Love. From Venice shall they drag huge argosies, and from America the golden fleece that yearly stuffs old Philip's treasury, if learned Faustus will be resolute.
Ah, Valdes, as resolute am I in this as thou to live, therefore object it not.
The miracles that magic will perform will make thee vow to study nothing else. He that is grounded in astrology, enriched with tongues, well seen in minerals, hath all the principles magic doth require. Then doubt not, Faustus, but to be renowned, and more frequented for this mystery than heretofore the Delphian oracle. The spirits tell me they can dry the sea, and fetch the treasure of all foreign wrecks, yet all the wealth that our forefathers hid within the massy entrails of the earth. Then tell me, Faustus, what shall we three want?
Nothing, Cornelius. Oh, this cheers my soul. Come, show me some demonstrations magical that I may conjure in some bushy grove and have these joys in full possession.
Then haste thee to some solitary grove, and bear wise Bacon's and Albertus' works, the Hebrew Psalter and New Testament, and whatsoever else is requisite, we will inform thee ere our conference cease.
Valdes, first let him know the words of art, and then all other ceremonies learned. Faustus may try his cunning by himself.
First I'll instruct thee in the rudiments, and then thou wilt be perfecter than I.
Then come and dine with me, and after meat, we'll canvass every quiddity thereof, for ere I sleep I'll try what I can do. This night I'll conjure, though I die therefore.
And they exit. Okay, the difference between the A text and B text is fairly marginal. The B text is slightly shorter. There are a number of lines that don't that are not in the A text, but otherwise it's pretty similar. There's almost no. I mean, I think the line difference is only about 8 or 9 through that entire sequence. We got a play that opens with lengthy monologues, both chorus setting everything up to And the chorus, that opening prologue is, integral to understanding what the hell's going on. It's really helpful to just give his backstory and his life story. And having actually now gone through the whole of the damnable life and deserved death of Doctor Faustus, the book of which most of this comes from, it's really interesting how they're trying to put together all this material and then and it's like, as the scene goes on, it's like, we need him to talk to some people. We need some other voices, because it's like, we've got a narrator telling the plot, and then he talks about some books, and then it's like, well, we need Cornelius, we need the big thing, which is the good and the bad angel, the good angel and the spirit that is added here into this, which again is sort of breaking it up. You could have him just talking to himself about, well, maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't do that, but it just dynamicizes that kind of thing. And of course, it always feels a bit silly because so many cartoons have done this since. But who are the voices?
I always see Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So yeah, in a sense, very little difference between the two texts. And any thoughts there? I had a few thoughts I don't think we brought up last time, but Lynn.
I don't know. I agree that we need the prologue, that it's that important. Faustus still resonates. I mean, the good angel and bad angel, of course, is it's like a cliche by now. I mean, people who have never seen an early modern play on stage know that Faustus is the guy who sold his soul to the devil. I mean, this is just sort of it's a folktale. It just sort of haunts our culture. I had a professor who said that there are two canonical texts that haunt modern science. One of them is Dr. Frankenstein, and the other is Dr. Faustus.
But
it's still sort of in our culture.
Yeah, but it's interesting that, at this time of this first appearing, and we don't know precisely when it first appeared, the book had only just dropped, the ballad probably followed, and then we get the play. Now, there are discussions about precisely which chicken and egg, how that goes. Mm-hmm. But this pretty much definitely follows the English printing of the book, because there are differences in the English and the German. So when this first appears, it's not a folk legend in the same way as it is for us today. It's a very different reader response, actually, in the sense that we've got demons, we've got medieval morality type setups before this, but this precise story he was known about and as an idea, and it took a while for the Germans to collate everything into a text. But that had been going on for quite a while. But it's not necessarily impacted in culture in the same way as this moment, when suddenly, within a few years, book, ballad, play, bam, everywhere. And it takes root in such a fascinating way. Eric?
I was just going to say that I like how he starts off in his study, and it makes me wonder what time of the night it is, because he does say that this night I shall conjure, but it makes you also wonder, because academics and students generally have this thing of mainly PhD students maybe, or I don't know, generally students cramming at the last minute the night before. So
it's an undergrad thing, yeah.
Because he starts off with settled thy studies, which makes me think that he's about to make a decision about something. Or he has to sort of select which path he will follow.
Yes.
So maybe you have to answer to, I don't know, maybe a supervisor or something the next day or whatever. And he just goes, you know what? I'm going to ask my friends what the best path is in this case.
Yeah, which modules are you choosing for next semester? Theology, demonology. Oh, I don't know. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit further on than that, though. Yeah. I mean, he's already got a doctorate. And in fact, when he says having commenced, I take it that's like commencement. I mean, we talk about commencement, but it's the beginning. And I guess he's at the beginning of an academic career, but he's already obviously been incredibly successful, as the chorus says. So it's just, and that rather curious thing about being a divine in show. I mean, presumably he would have to give sermons and behave like a member of the church, but at the same time, what are you actually going to study? What's the really interesting stuff?
Yeah, it's like it's this thing. He's done everything now, but if you actually know some of the stuff that he's quoting, he's done it, but I don't think he's done it very well, because he's chopping logic all over the place of going, no, that's not quite what that. If you finish that sentence, which you've just skimmed, it's a question of how far some of those et ceteras go. But if all he's doing is just reading the first line and not reading on, he is missing the point. And that is the part of the point of the scene, part of the difficulty of getting that across, actually, to a modern audience, is actually he's not as good at this as he thinks he is. And that's quite important, actually, to understanding what he's doing there. We will need to move on, but I'll go to Eric.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he doesn't exactly read his full sort of contract when Mephistophilis turns up, so it's kind of like... We
will discuss legal negotiations later when we get to it. But yeah, he should, spoilers, but he should really get a lawyer in. So anyway, let's go to text, which is doing something slightly different. Just to note that I think act and scene divisions are all post-dated. They're not necessarily authorial. Act 1, Scene 2, enter 2 scholars.
I wonder what's become of Faustus, that was wont to make our schools ring with sic probo.
That shall we presently know. Here comes his boy.
Enter Wagner.
How now, sirrah? Where's thy master?
God in heaven knows.
Why, dost not thou know then?
Yes, I know, but that follows not.
Go to, sirrah, leave your jesting, and tell us where he is.
That follows not by force of argument, which you, being licentiates, should stand upon. Therefore, acknowledge your error and be attentive.
Then you will not tell us?
You are deceived, for I will tell you. Yet if you were not dunces, you would not ask me such a question. For is he not corpus naturale, and is not that mobile? Therefore, then wherefore should you ask me such a question? But that I am but nature phlegmatic, slow to wrath, and prone to lechery, to love, I would say, it were not for you to come within 40 foot of the place of execution, although I do not doubt but to see you both hanged the next sessions. Therefore, having triumphed over you, I will set my countenance like a precision, and begin to speak thus. Truly, my dear brethren, my master is within at dinner with Valdes and Cornelius, as this wine, if it could speak, would inform your worships. And so the Lord bless you, preserve you, and keep you, my dear brethren.
And exit Wagner.
Oh, Faustus, then I fear that which I have long suspected, that thou art fallen into that damned art for which they too are infamous through the world.
Were he a stranger not allied to me, the danger of his soul would make me mourn. But come, let us go and inform the rector. It may be his grave counsel may reclaim him.
I fear me nothing will reclaim him now.
Yet let us see what we can do.
And they exit. We have this little scene. It's partly a bridge scene between the exit of Valdes and Cornelius and Faustus returning again in a moment. But it's setting up some fun things. It's like the faculty know there's some issues. They know there are some problems. And also Wagner. Oh, what an arse. I mean, in the best possible way. I mean, he really is. He's a bit of a git. But he is very enjoyably so. I do like that stuff of just going. It's speaking to class and education and all sorts of things about where he is in the household and how all that works. So I'm liking that a lot. Any brief thoughts before we move on? Lynn and then Eric.
It just made me laugh when you said the faculty know this, because it's like academia never changes. Like everybody knows who the predators are. Everybody knows who's got a substance problem. Everybody knows, but nobody does anything about it.
Yeah. Eric.
I was just going to say that I like how, and is not that mobile could be a double entendre in both languages, because it could be like mobile as in far away or mobile as in like moving.
Okay, let us go to some certain grove. I think that's where they said it was going to be. We started in a study where it's not actually 100% certain where this is, but we can infer that it's probably outside. Act 1, Scene 3. We have thunder. We have, exclusive to the B text, we have enter Lucifer and 4 devils who we infer are above, and Faustus to them, not that he knows they're there, with this speech, probably holding a book.
Now that the gloomy shadow of the night, longing to view Orion's drizzling look, leaps from the Atlantic world into the sky and dims the welkin with her pitchy breath, Faustus, begin thy incantations, and try if devils will obey thy hest, seeing thou hast prayed and sacrificed to them. Within this circle is Jehovah's name, forward and backward anagrammatized, the abbreviated names of holy saints, figures of every adjunct to the heavens, and characters of signs and erring stars, by which the spirits are enforced to rise. Then, fear not, Faustus, to be resolute, and try the utmost magic can perform.
Potentially more thunder here.
Sint mihi di acerontis prepropiti, valeat numen triplex Jehovai, ignei aeri aquatani spiritus salvete. Orientis principes Belzebub, inferni ardentis monarcha, et demogorgon propitiamus vox, ut appareat et surgat Mephistophilis dragon, quod tumeraris per Jehovam Gehennem et consecratam aquam quem num spargo, signum quae crucis quod nunc facio, et per vota nostra ipse nunc surgeat nobis dicatus Mephistophilis.
And enter a devil at this point. Now, just a brief note, it says here in the script you're looking at as a dragon. There is a reference to dragon within the speech before, and there is some debate as to whether that's a misplaced stage direction or whether the dragon was supposed to enter earlier on that cue point earlier of the first mention of Mephistopheles, and maybe this is the moment here where Faustus actually sees that there is a dragon. There is some debate as to what that dragon is doing there. But anyway, dragon has entered. Enter a devil.
I charge thee to return and change thy shape. Thou art too ugly to attend on me. Go and return an old Franciscan friar. That holy shape becomes a devil best.
And exit Mephistopheles.
I see there's virtue in my heavenly words. Who would not be proficient in this art? How pliant is this Mephistophilis, full of obedience and humility. Such is the force of magic and my spells.
Enter Mephistopheles disguised as a friar. Sadly muted. The magical powers do not allow for speech yet.
Now, Faustus, what wouldst thou have me do?
I charge thee, wait upon me whilst I live, to do whatever Faustus shall command, be it to make the moon drop from her sphere or the ocean to overwhelm the world.
I am a servant to great Lucifer, and may not follow thee without his leave. No more than he commands must we perform.
Did not he charge thee to appear to me?
No, I came hither of mine own accord.
Did not my conjuring speeches raise thee? Speak.
That was the cause, but yet per accidens. For when we hear one rack the name of God, abjure the scriptures and his Saviour Christ, we fly in hope to get his glorious soul. Nor will we come unless he use such means whereby he is in danger to be damned. Therefore, the shortest cut for conjuring is stoutly to abjure all godliness and pray devoutly to the Prince of Hell.
So Faustus hath already done, and holds this principle. There is no chief, but only Belzebub, to whom Faustus doth dedicate himself. This word damnation terrifies not me, for I confound hell in Elysium. My ghost be with the old philosophers. But leaving these vain trifles of men's souls, tell me, what is that, Lucifer, thy lord?
Archregent and commander of all spirits.
Was not that Lucifer an angel once?
Yes, Faustus, and most dearly loved of God.
How comes it then that he is prince of devils?
Oh, by aspiring pride and insolence, for which God threw him from the face of heaven.
And what are you that live with Lucifer?
Unhappy spirits that fell with Lucifer, conspired against our God with Lucifer, and are forever damned with Lucifer.
Where are you damned?
In hell.
How comes it then that thou art out of hell?
What? This is hell, nor am I out of it. Think'st thou that I, that saw the face of God and tasted the eternal joys of heaven, am not tormented with 10,000 hells in being deprived of everlasting bliss? Oh, Faustus, leave these frivolous demands, which strike a terror to my fainting soul.
What? Is great Mephistophilis so passionate for being deprived of the joys of heaven? Learn thou of Faustus' manly fortitude, and scorn those joys thou never shalt possess. Go, bear these tidings to great Lucifer. Seeing Faustus hath incurred eternal death by desperate thoughts against Jove's deity, say, he surrenders up to him his soul, so he will spare him 24 years, letting him live in all voluptuousness, having thee ever to attend on me, to give me whatsoever I shall ask, to tell me whatsoever I demand, to slay mine enemies and to aid my friends, and always be obedient to my will. Go, and return to mighty Lucifer, and meet me in my study at midnight, and then resolve me of thy master's mind.
I will, Faustus.
Exit Mephistophilis.
Had I as many souls as there be stars, I'd give them all for Mephistophilis. By him, I'll be great emperor of the world, and make a bridge through the moving air, to pass the ocean with a band of men, and to join the hills that bind the Afric shore, and make that country continent to Spain, and both contributory to my crown. The emperor shall not live but by my leave, nor any potentate of Germany. Now that I have obtained what I desired, I'll live in speculation of this art, till Mephistophilis return again.
And exit, and we confirm any additional demons that have been lingering around on stage have gone as well. So yeah, the fundamental difference between this and the A text is we don't have really quite so many potential spectacular effects going on here. It seems like it's potentially a lot simpler in terms of how it functions in the other version. But yeah, there's still incanting and thunder and some form of demon wandering on, who changes into something a little less sinister. Though, of course, recently we read the Temptation play by John Bale, where Satan is disguised as a friar. So this has its antecedents that we are all fairly familiar with. Any thoughts on the room before we go further into the play? And more importantly, further into some other people who aren't Faustus. Because even here, it's still that the other people are not so massive. I'll go to David.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Faustus is up for it straight away, isn't he? He doesn't need any persuading by Mephistophilis. He's the one who's doing all the pushing about it. So there's a question there about people often ask, when does he become damned in the play? He seems to be the one that's pushing for devilish power right from the start to me.
Yeah, and Mephistophilis constantly playing hard to get. He's constantly going, yeah, whatever. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're all damned, you know. It's really hell's awful. You don't want to have anything to do with that. It's like he doesn't lie at any point. Lois.
I mean, Faustus really is an idiot. I mean, he's talking, if he believes this really is a devil, then why doesn't he believe anything else that the devil says? Our life is absolute hell, and hell is hell. And why are you getting mixed up in this?
Eric.
Yeah, and it's interesting how I think in the aid, I was gonna say in the other play, but I mean it's in the aid text. It takes more sort of, I don't know, like demons dancing and like sort of, I don't know, or is that later in the play where they sort of have a different approach into seducing him into this situation rather than him going, yes, this is what I want, these are my terms, and you're gonna do it. Sort of.
Yeah, we'll get to
without
dancing later, I think.
Yeah.
It's as things get more real, we'll find out in a bit. I'm not so fussed about us discussing what's going to happen next because we have done this play a couple of times.
But it does happen in the book where you've got the sort of thing of, he summons Mephistophilis and sort of goes, well, I would be interested in asking about an internship.
There's a lot more negotiation of the terms and conditions in the book version, none of which are much better. I mean, let's be honest, Faustus is rubbish at negotiating. He's terrible at it. Lynn?
Yeah, I mean, Lois's observation of Faustus has got to be an idiot because he's got to know. He's got to know. But, so did Lucifer. Lucifer must have known that it was absolutely pointless to rebel. It was no good could come of that. And the angels that followed him must have known. It's God, how would they still do it? And I think that's what fascinates us about this story. Like, why do we do this self-destructive stuff? Why do we fight these losing battles? Why do we do wrong even though we know it's wrong? I think that's why this story continues to fascinate, because there's something about human nature.
Well, going to the folklore thing you were saying earlier, this idea of trying to trick magical forces, of going, well, I can find the way of the terms and conditions, I can think my way out of the problem. You've got to remember, he conjures Mephistophilis, but calls him by name. He doesn't call for Lucifer. If he'd called for Lucifer, then there really isn't any going back, actually. But he's just called for a minor demon, by name, and he's got a chance that he could outthink this. And in fact, he could be saved by and large at any point in this text if he just abjures Satan. Yeah. He never does, and that's why he fails, I think. Anyway, Lois.
Yeah, I mean, sort of continuing from what Lynn was saying, there's a line in The Revenger's Tragedy: ladies know Lucifer fell and yet are proud. And for that matter, there's the line that I think I've quoted before, which they're so fond of in Seneca: video meliora proboque deteriora sequor. I see and approve the better, I follow the worse. I mean, it just is something about why do people do these crazy things.
Okay, we need to move on, so hold that thought, Eric. Act 1, Scene 4, enter Wagner and Robin the Clown.
Come hither, syrup boy.
Boy? Oh, disgrace to my person! Zoons, boy in your face! Have you seen many boys with beards, I am sure?
Sirrah, hast thou no comings in?
Yes, and goings out, too, you may see, sir.
Alas, poor slave, see how poverty jests in his nakedness. I know the villain's out of service and so hungry that he would give his soul to the devil for a shoulder of mutton, though
Not
it were
so...
blood raw.
Sorry. Not so neither. I had need to have it well roasted and a good sauce to it if I pay so dear, I can tell you.
Sir, wilt thou be my man and wait on me, and I will make thee go like qui mihi discipulus.
What, in verse?
No, slave, in beaten silk and staved acre.
Stavesacre, that's good to kill vermin. Then be like, if I serve you, I shall be lousy.
Why, so thou shalt be, whether thou dost it or no. For, sirrah, if thou dost not presently bind thyself to me for 7 years, I'll turn all the lice about thee into familiars, and make them tear thee in pieces.
Nay, sir, you may save yourself a labor, for if they are as familiar with me as if they are paid for their meat and drink, I can tell you.
Well, sirrah, leave your jesting and take these guilders.
And give some money.
Oh, yes, marry, sir, I thank you too.
So, now thou art to be at an hour's warning, whensoever and wheresoever the devil shall fetch thee.
Here, take your guilders again, for I'll none of them.
Not I, thou art pressed. Prepare thyself, or I will presently raise up 2 devils to take thee away. Bonio, Belcher.
Belcher? And Belcher come here, I'll belch him. I'm not afraid of a devil.
Enter 2 devils.
How now, sir? Will you serve me now?
Hi, good Wagner. Take the devils away, then.
Spirits away!
And exeunt devils.
Now, sirrah, follow me.
I will, sir. But hark you, master, will you teach me this conjuring occupation?
Aye, sirrah, I'll teach thee to turn thyself into a dog or a cat or a mouse or a rat or anything.
A dog or a cat or a mouse or a rat? Oh, brave Wagner.
Villain, call me Master Wagner, and see that you walk attentively, and let your right eye always be diametrically fixed upon my left heel, that thou mayest quasi vestigius nostris insistere.
Well, sir, I warrant you.
And they exit. The A text has a little bit more to the end of that scene, but broadly has the same shape. Once again, we've got Wagner playing around with the kinds of stuff that his master is doing, and we're having these interesting disruptions of social order, which is quite fun. I like the idea that Wagner already is better at conjuring up demons than his master is, of just going, "Hi, we need to rustle up some service from the clown. I needed the clown to do some business here." Any brief thoughts on this, or other thoughts from earlier? Eric.
Well, the thought that I was holding earlier was basically that in all the sort of, mystery cycle beginnings where we talk about like Lucifer falling and all that stuff, we have that thing of basically God goes, "Don't press the red button or else." And then,
why do we even have that button?
Yeah, it's very much a thing of like, "Don't sit on my chair." He doesn't ever give a reason why. He just sort of, this is the boundary, and then Lucifer sits on the chair. And yeah, anyway. But I do like this scene because it's like there's a part of me going, I don't know if the Latin actually if it makes sense in Latin. So he could be saying anything. So, though he does do well enough to conjure demons, so I'm not sure if that is anything.
I think Wagner looks technically very proficient. I think he's he knows what he's doing. There's no implication he's going to hell yet. Lois.
Well, just all he has to do is call them. He doesn't need any Latin incantation. I mean, it turns out to be much easier than you think.
Well, that's arguably the whole thing about Faustus earlier, is that he spends all this time doing whoa, and he's Mephistophilis just sort of saunters on, just going, looks at his watch. You done? Okay, here we go. And it's like, we've had you in the diary for months, mate. Actually, I've only just got round to coming along. Anyway, I must move us on because we are massively behind schedule. So, Act 2, Scene 1, Faustus is discovered. He's in his study.
Now, Faustus, must thou needs be damned? Canst thou not be saved? What boots it then to think on God or heaven? Away with such vain fancies and despair. Despair in God and trust in Belzebub. Now, go not backward, Faustus. Be resolute. Why waverest thou? Something soundeth in mine ear. Abjure this magic, turn to God again. Why he loves thee not. The God thou servest is thine own appetite, wherein is fixed the love of Belzebub. To him I'll build an altar and a church, and offer lukewarm blood of newborn babes.
Enter the two angels.
Go forward, Faustus, in that famous art.
Sweet Faustus, leave that execrable art.
Contrition, prayer, repentance. What of these?
Oh, they are the means to bring thee unto heaven.
Rather illusions, fruits of lunacy, that make men foolish that do use them most.
Sweet Faustus, think of heaven and heavenly things.
No, Faustus, think of honour and wealth.
Excellent. Angels.
Wealth? Why, the Signory of Emden shall be mine. When Mephistophilis shall stand by me, what power can hurt me? Faustus, thou art safe, cast no more doubts. Mephistophilis, come and bring glad tidings from great Lucifer. It's not midnight? Come, Mephistophilis. Veni, Mephistophilis.
Enter Mephistophilis.
Now, tell me, what saith Lucifer, thy lord?
That I shall wait on Faustus while he lives, so he will buy my service with his soul.
Already Faustus hath hazarded that for thee.
But now thou must bequeath it solemnly, and write a deed of gift with thine own blood. For that security craves Lucifer. If thou deny it, I must back to hell.
Stay, Mephistophilis, and tell me, what good will my soul do, my lord?
Enlarge his kingdom.
Is that the reason why he tempts us thus?
Solomon miseris socios habuisse doloris.
Oh, why, have you any pain that torture others?
As great as have the human souls of men. But tell me, Faustus, shall I have thy soul? And I will be thy slave, and wait on thee, and give thee more than thou hast wit to ask.
Aye, Mephistophilis, I'll give it thee.
Then, Faustus, stab thine arm courageously, and bind thy soul, that at some certain day great Lucifer may claim it as his own. And then be thou as great as Lucifer.
Hello, Mephistophilis. For love of thee, Faustus hath cut his arm, and with his proper blood assures his soul to be great Lucifer's, chief lord and regent of perpetual night. You hear this blood that trickles from mine arm, and let it be propitious for my wish.
But, Faustus, write it in manner of a deed of gift.
Aye, so I do. But, Mephistophilis, my blood congeals, and I can write no more.
I'll fetch thee fire to dissolve it straight.
Exit Mephistophilis.
What may the staying of my blood portend? Is it unwilling I should write this bill? Why streams it not that I may write afresh? Faustus gives to thee his soul. There it stayed. Why shouldst thou not? Is not thy soul thine own? Then write again. Faustus gives to thee his soul.
And enter Mephistophilis with a chafer of fire.
See, Faustus, here is the fire. Set it on.
There, now the blood begins to clear again. Now will I make an end immediately.
What will not I do to obtain his soul?
Consummatum est. This bill is ended, and Faustus hath bequeathed his soul to Lucifer. What is this inscription on mine arm? Homo fugae. Whither should I fly? If unto God, he'll throw me down to hell. My senses are deceived. Here's nothing writ. Oh, yes, I see it plain. Even here is writ Homo fugae. Yet shall not Faustus fly.
I'll fetch him somewhat to delight his mind.
And exit Mephistophilis, at which point we have enter devils giving crowns and rich apparel to Faustus. They dance and then depart. Re-enter Mephistophilis.
What means this show? Speak, Mephistophilis.
Nothing, Faustus, but to delight thy mind, and let thee see what magic can perform.
But may I raise such spirits when I please?
I, Faustus, and do greater things than these.
Then, Mephistophilis, receive this scroll, a deed of gift of body and of soul, but yet conditionally that thou perform all covenants and articles between us both.
Faustus, I swear by hell and Lucifer to effect all promises between us both.
Then hear me read it, Mephistophilis. On these conditions following, first, that Faustus may be a spirit in form and substance. Secondly, that Mephistophilis shall be his servant and by him commanded. Thirdly, that Mephistophilis shall do for him and bring him whatsoever he desires. Fourthly, that he shall be in his chamber or house invisible. Lastly, that he shall appear to the said John Faustus at all times in what shape and form soever he please. I, John Faustus of Wittenberg, doctor, by these presents do give both body and soul to Lucifer, prince of the East, and his minister Mephistophilis, and furthermore grant unto them that 24 years being expired, and these articles above written being inviolate, full power to fetch or carry the said John Faustus, body and soul, flesh and blood, into their habitation wheresoever. By me, John Faustus.
Speak, Faustus, do you deliver this as your deed?
Aye, take it, and the devil give thee good of it.
So, now, Faustus, ask me what thou wilt.
First, I will question with thee about hell. Tell me, where is the place that men call hell?
Under the heavens.
Aye, so are all things else, but whereabouts?
Within the bowels of these elements, where we are tortured and remain forever. Hell hath no limits, nor is circumscribed in one self-place. But where we are is hell. And where hell is, there must we ever be. And to be short, when all the world dissolves and every creature shall be purified, all places shall be hell that are not heaven.
I think hell's a fable.
I think so still. Till experience change thy mind.
Why, dost thou think that Faustus shall be damned?
Aye, of necessity. For here's the scroll in which thou hast given thy soul to Lucifer.
Aye, and body too, and what of that? Think'st thou that Faustus is so fond to imagine that after this life there is any pain? No, those are trifles and mere old wives' tales.
But I am an instance to prove the contrary. For I tell thee that I am damned, and now in hell.
And this be hell, I'll willingly be damned. What? Sleeping, eating, walking, and disputing. But leaving this, let me have a wife, the fairest maid in Germany. For I am wanton and lascivious, and cannot live without a wife.
Well, Faustus, thou shalt have a wife.
And Mephistopheles fetches in a woman devil.
What sight is this?
Now, Faustus, wilt thou have a wife?
Here's a hot whore, indeed. No, I'll no wife.
Marriage is but a ceremonial toy. And, if thou lovest me, think no more of it. I'll cull thee out the fairest courtesans, and bring them every morning to thy bed. She whom thine eye shall like, thy heart shall have. For she is chaste as was Penelope, as wise as Saba, or as beautiful as was bright Lucifer before his fall. Here, take this book, peruse it well. The iterating of these lines brings gold. The framing of this circle on the ground brings thunder, whirlwinds, storm, and lightning. Pronounce this thrice devoutly to thyself, and men in harness shall appear to thee, ready to execute what thou commandst.
Thanks, Mephistophilis, for this sweet book. This will I keep as chary as my life.
And they exit. Reason why I was suddenly going, hang on, is the A-text has a little bit more of that exchange of what's in the book. And in fact, Faustus seems to get, in the A-text, Faustus gets quite disappointed with the book because he sort of goes, oh, you've handed me Wikipedia, and it's not very big. Is this literally the sum of all knowledge?
Yeah,
You don't get that here. He's just handed the book and he goes off very happy, and we go into another scene. So you don't quite get the seeds of his ness that you get in the A text. But it's a very satisfactory scene in its own way. I mean, the devil keeps saying, "You are damned." No, you literally. We've written it down on a bit of paper. Do you not get this? It's like, no. I'm sure that the markets won't go down.
Yeah,
My
I think
investment is
stable.
safe.
And he's got a devil sitting right there in his living room. Like, what?
Yeah. Happy days. Eric.
Well, what I found interesting was, I mean, aside from like the thing about the book and so on and so forth, and if thou lovest me, think no more of like marriage, whatever. I found it interesting that the way Mephistophilis describes hell, sort of like as being like where we are is hell, and where hell is, there must we ever be, and all that stuff. It sounds sort of like a reverse of what you get in like romantic plays, where you have sort of, oh, and where you are, heaven is, and all that stuff. So it's kind of, I don't know, it just struck me as very interesting.
Hell's everywhere. It's interesting in the book. The hell is described in great detail, but is also nebulous and unclear. He doesn't quite go that everywhere is hell that isn't heaven. It doesn't quite do what this text does, but it definitely spends a lot of time talking about the geography, the psychogeography of hell, and certainly gives us, I think, the starting point for what this text actually does here, even if this text then does something quite different with it. Let's go back to the clowns. Let's find out what they're doing. We've just had a scene with magical books being passed over. Let's see what the clowns do with that in their compare and contrast mode. Act 2, Scene 2. Enter Robin with a book.
Oh. Sorry. I skipped ahead to my Mephistophilis bit. Okay. I'm almost there.
Yes, Robin the Clown, I should say. I apologise. I didn't give him his full title. Robin the Clown enters with a book.
What, Dick? Look to the horses there till I come again. I've gotten one of Dr. Faustus' conjuring books, and now we'll have such knavery as it passes.
Enter Dick.
What, Robin? You must come away and walk the horses.
I walk the horses. I scorn it, faith. I have other matters in hand. Let the horses walk themselves, and they will. A per se, A, T-H-E, the, O per se, O, demi-organ, gorgon, keep further from me, thou illiterate and unlearned ostler.
What's thou got there? A book? Why, thou canst not tell ne'er a word on't.
That thou shalt see presently. Keep out of the circle, I say, lest I send you into the ostry with a vengeance.
That's like faith. You'd best leave your foolery. When my master come, he'll conjure you, faith.
My master conjure me. I'll tell thee what, and my master come here, I'll clap as fair a pair of horns on his head as e'er thou saw'st in thy life.
Thou needst not do that, for my mistress hath done it.
Aye, there be of us here that have waded as deep into matters as other men, if they were disposed to talk.
Ah, plague take ya. Thought you did not sneak up and down after her for nothing. I prithee, tell me in good sadness, Robin, is that a conjuring book?
Do but speak what thou'lt have me do, and I'll do it. If thou dance naked, put off thy clothes, and I'll conjure thee about presently. Or, if thou'lt go but to the tavern with me, I'll give thee white wine, red wine, claret wine, sack, muscadine, malmsey, and whipping crust. Hold, belly hold, and will not pay 1 penny for it.
Brave. Prithee, let's do it presently. As dry as a dog.
Come, men, let's away.
And they exit. It's really interesting, actually. This scene, the shape of the scene, the idea of the scene is I've nicked one of Faustus's magic books. Let's do some magic. Is the same. Almost none of this is the same. It is clearly at a different point the clown, whoever clown is in residence at the time, has gone, this isn't quite my shtick, I'm going to do a slightly different version. So the A and the B text are quite different, even though the basic idea of the scene is exactly the same. And that's actually, I think, more for a compare and contrast session than this exercise. But it's really interesting how different that is after the initial... there's a nice thing about literacy here in the sense that Robin is someone who can just about read. He understands the way language is structured. He almost certainly can't write, but he can just about work his way through a text. And considering how ridiculously complicated the text is, it's presumably all in Latin. He doesn't have a hope in hell. But it does give that idea of that actually, you know, people can to a degree read in society, perhaps more than we, you know, always think. They just aren't necessarily literate in the way that we would accept today, or for that matter then. Any thoughts? What anyone wants to throw in? Alan?
Yeah, I mean, that raises an issue because we've had a heck of a lot of Latin in this so far in the first 17 pages or thereabouts. Okay, the incantations when he's summoning Mephistophilis and so on, fine. You wouldn't expect the audience to work that out because it is effectively the verbal equivalent of abracadabra, etc. But an awful lot of the quotation in that, and I just wonder, was this designed for an ordinary audience or was it court type thing?
No, you've got to remember almost all the Latin is glossed in the next line. There are a few that aren't, and they're quite pointedly not. But most of it is the next line says what the previous line said. Certainly almost everything Faustus does in that first speech, he immediately praises what he's just said. Mephistophilis less so. It's quite interesting, actually, occasionally when Mephistophilis doesn't get glossed. So, you know, 90% of what we're getting here, with that incantation aside, is in the text in English. So it's not... It's a barrier in the sense of it's something that might put people off, but it's not necessarily inherently a barrier to understanding, because so long as you're working the text properly. David?
Yeah, it looks like Robin went basically to elementary school, whereas Faustus went all the way through to university. And so he did learn about how to spell and to basically figure out by phonics how to read something. He doesn't really have much of a clue how to make sense of it, and he certainly doesn't know what demi-gorgon refers to, otherwise he'd probably have stopped reading at that point, I think. But yeah, an interesting bit of clowning around, and that you've got these different levels of language going on between the two scenes quite quickly, one after the other.
Excellent. Let's go on back to Faustus. We've had the clowns. Let's ping back to the drama. What is called Act 2, Scene 3. Enter Faustus in his study and Mephistophilis.
When I behold the heavens, then I repent, and curse thee, wicked Mephistophilis, because thou hast deprived me of those joys.
'Twas thine own seeking, Faustus. Thank thyself. But think'st thou heaven is such a glorious thing? I tell thee, Faustus, it is not half so fair as thou, or any man that breathes on earth.
How provest thou that?
'Twas made for man. Then he's more excellent.
If heaven was made for man, 'twas made for me. I will renounce this magic and repent.
Enter two angels.
Faustus, repent, yet God will pity thee.
But a spirit, God cannot pity thee.
Who buzzeth in mine ears, I am a spirit. Be I a devil, yet God may pity me. Yea, God will pity me if I repent.
Aye, but Faustus never shall repent.
Exeunt angels.
My heart is hardened. I cannot repent. Scarce can I name salvation, faith, or heaven. Swords, poisons, halters, and envenomed steel are laid before me to dispatch myself. And long ere this I should have done the deed, had not sweet pleasure conquered deep despair. Have not I made blind Homer sing to me of Alexander's love and Enon's death? And hath not he that built the walls of Thebes with ravishing sound of his melodious harp made music with my Mephistophilis? Why should I die then, or basely despair? I am resolved. Faustus shall not repent. Come, Mephistophilis, let us dispute again, and reason of divine astrology. Speak, are there many spheres above the moon? Are all celestial bodies but one globe, as is the substance of this centric earth?
As are the elements, such are the heavens, even from the moon unto the imperial orb, mutually folded in each other's spheres and jointly move upon one axletree, whose termine is termed the world's wide pole. Nor are the names of Saturn, Mars, or Jupiter feigned, but are erring stars.
But have they all one motion, both situ et tempore?
All move from east to west in 24 hours upon the poles of the world, but differ in their motions upon the poles of the zodiac.
These slender questions Wagner can decide. Hath Mephistophilis no greater skill? Who knows not the double motion of the planets, that the first is finished in a natural day, the second, Saturn in 30 years, Jupiter in 12, Mars in 4, the Sun, Venus, and Mercury in a year, the Moon in 28 days. These are freshmen's questions. But tell me, hath every sphere a dominion or intelligentsia?
Aye.
How many heavens or spheres are there?
9. The 7 planets, the firmament, and the imperial heaven.
But is there not caelum igneum et crystallinum?
No, Faustus. They be but fables.
Resolve me then in this one question. Why are not conjunctions, oppositions, aspects, eclipses all at one time, but in some years we have more, in some less?
Per inno equalem motum respectu totius.
Well, I am answered. Now tell me, who made the world?
Will not.
Sweet Mephistophilis, tell me.
Move me not, Faustus.
Villain, have I not bound thee to tell me anything?
I that is not against our kingdom. This is. Thou art damned. Think thou of hell.
Think, Faustus, upon God that made the world.
Remember this.
I go, accursed spirit, to ugly hell. 'Tis thou hast damned distressed Faustus' soul. Is not too late?
Re-enter the angels.
Too late.
Never too late, if Faustus will repent.
If thou repent, devils will tear thee in pieces.
Repent, and they shall never raise thy skin.
Exit angels.
O Christ, my Saviour, help to save distressed Faustus' soul.
Enter Lucifer, Belzebub, and Mephistophilis.
Christ cannot save thy soul, for he is just. There's none but I have interest in the same.
Oh, what art thou that lookest so terribly?
I am Lucifer, and this is my companion prince in hell.
Oh, Faustus, they are come to fetch thy soul.
We are come to tell thee thou dost injure us.
Thou callest for Christ, contrary to thy promise.
Thou shouldst not think on God.
Think on the devil.
And his damned too.
Nor will Faustus hereforth. Pardon him for this, and Faustus vows never to look to heaven.
So shalt thou show thyself an obedient servant, and we will highly gratify thee for it.
Faustus, we are come from hell in person to show thee some pastime. Sit down, and thou shalt behold the 7 deadly sins appear to thee in their own proper shapes and likeness.
That sight will be as pleasant unto me as paradise was to Adam the first day of his creation.
Talk not of paradise or creation, but mark the show. Go, Mephistophilis, and fetch them in.
And Mephistophilis goes for the deadly sins who enter.
Now, Faustus, question them of their names and dispositions.
That shall I soon. What art thou, the first?
I am Pride. I disdain to have any parents. I'm like to Ovid's flea. I can creep into every corner of a wench. Sometimes, like a periwig, I sit upon her brow. Next, like a necklace, I hang about her neck. Then, like a fan of feathers, I kiss her lips. And then, turning myself to a wrought smock, do what I list. What a smell is here! I'll not speak a word more for a king's ransom, unless the ground be perfumed and covered with cloth of arras.
Thou art a proud knave indeed. What art thou, the second?
I am Covetousness, begotten of an old churl in a leather bag. And, might I now obtain my wish, this house, you and all should turn to gold, that I might lock you safe into my chest. Oh, my sweet gold.
And what art thou, the third?
I am Envy, begotten of a chimney sweeper and an oyster wife. I cannot read, and therefore wish all spurned. I am lean with seeing others eat. Oh, that there come a famine over all the world, that all might die and I live alone. Then thou shouldst see how fat I'd be. Must thou sit and I stand? Come down with a vengeance.
Out, envious wretch. But what art thou, the fourth?
I am Wrath. I had neither father nor mother. I leapt out of a lion's mouth when I was scarce an hour old, and ever since have run up and down the world with this case of rapiers, wounding myself when I could get none to fight withal. I was born in hell, and look to it, for some of you shall be my father.
And what art thou, the fifth?
I'm Gluttony. My parents are all dead, and the devil a penny they have left me, but a small pension, and that buys me 30 meals a day and 10 bevers. Small trifle to suffice nature. I come of a royal pedigree. My father was a gammon of bacon, my mother was a hogshead of claret wine. My godfathers were these: Peter, a pickled herring, and Martin, Martinless beef. But my godmother, oh, she was an ancient gentlewoman. Her name was Marjorie March Vere. Now, Faustus, thou hast heard all my progeny. Wilt thou bid me to supper?
Not I.
Then the devil choke thee.
Choke thyself, glutton. What art thou, the sixth?
Oh, I'm Sloth, was begotten on a sunny bank. I'll not speak a word more for a king's ransom.
And what are you, Mistress Minx, the seventh and last?
Who, I, sir? I am one that loves an inch of raw mutton better than an ell of fried stockfish. And the first letter of my name begins with L.
Away to hell, away. On, Piper.
And exit the 7 deadly sins.
Ah, how this sight doth delight my soul.
Tut, Faustus, in hell is all manner of delight.
Oh, might I see hell and return again safe? How happy were I then!
Faustus, thou shalt. At midnight I will send for thee. Meanwhile, peruse this book and view it thoroughly, and thou shalt turn thyself into what shape thou wilt.
Thanks, mighty Lucifer. This will I keep as chary as my life.
Now, Faustus, farewell.
Farewell, great Lucifer.
Exit Lucifer and Belzebub.
Come, Mephistophilis.
And everybody exits in various different directions. I like the bit at the end, Bye. No, you bye. No, you say goodbye first. So it goes on for a while. We haven't encountered the seven deadly sins as often as you'd think in earlier texts, but we certainly have done a sort of presentation of the seven deadly sins. We've got one of those, and they do sort of turn up in bits and pieces here and there. But they're not as ubiquitous as we kind of think they would be from out there. But they do predate this, and there's interesting questions about that use of seven deadly sins. It's not from the book. The book does bring in a series of demons, but they aren't explicitly seven deadly sins. So this is again something that he's drawing from wider culture. And yeah, presenting the seven deadly sins to an audience is a done thing. We have done texts like that before, so he's definitely feeding on that. Lynn, were you waving?
Yeah, the interest in the seven deadly sins is a little older than that, of course. Dante's configuration of hell is based on the seven deadly sins. There's a fairly extended passage about them in Piers Plowman. Of course, they come up in like the last tale of the Canterbury Tales. So like 1300 to 1400 is kind of when literary culture seemed to be really interested in the seven deadly sins.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time, Eric, and then we will move into the final couple of scenes.
I was just going to say that I noticed that Faustus keeps saying whenever they give him something, he keeps going, "This will I keep as cherry as my life." And there's a part of me going, but you already threw your life away. So how valuable is this book to you?
Yeah.
Really?
Where does it list on the household insurance? Because I don't think he's got any. So. Okay, this is where we have our biggest digression from the A text. So a lot of this may be new. The basic shape of going traveling is not new, but actually the extent of what he does. But we're going to run this sequence through to when we're going to stop this session. So, Act 3 opens with a chorus.
Learned Faustus, to find the secrets of astronomy graven in the book of Jove's high firmament, did mount him up to scale Olympus' top, where, sitting in a chariot burning bright, drawn by the strength of yoked dragons' necks, he views the clouds, the planets, and the stars, the tropic zones and quarters of the sky, from the bright circle of the horned moon even to the height of primum mobile. And, whirling round with this circumference within the concave compass of the pole, from east to west his dragons swiftly glide, and in 8 days did bring him home again. Not long he stayed within his quiet house to rest his bones after his weary toil, but new exploits do hail him out again, and, mounted then upon a dragon's back, that with his wings did part the subtle air, he now is gone to prove cosmology, that measures coasts and kingdoms of the earth, and, as I guess, will first arrive at Rome, to see the Pope and manor of his court, and take some part of Holy Peter's feast, the which, this day, is highly solemnized.
And exit the chorus in the A text. That's considerably shorter and performed by Wagner, but here is just generically chorus. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Faustus and Mephistophilis.
Having now, my good Mephistophilis, passed with delight the stately town of Trier, environed round with airy mountain tops, with walls of flint and deep entrenched lakes, not to be won by any conquering prince. From Paris next, coasting the realm of France, we saw the river Main fall into Rhine, whose banks are set with groves of fruitful vines. Then up to Naples, rich Campania, whose buildings, fair and gorgeous to the eye, the streets straight forth and paved with finest brick, quarter the town in 4 equivalents. There saw we learned Marrow's golden tomb, the way he cut, an English mile in length, thorough a rock of stone in 1 night's space. From thence to Venice, Padua, and the rest, in one of which a sumptuous temple stands that threats the stars with her aspiring top, whose frame is paved with sundry colored stones and roofed aloft with curious work in gold. Thus hitherto hath Faustus spent his time. But tell me now, what resting place is this? Hast thou, as erst I did command, conducted me within the walls of Rome?
I have, my Faustus, and for proof thereof, this is the goodly palace of the Pope. And, cause we are no common guests, I choose his privy chamber for our use.
I hope his holiness will bid us welcome.
All's one, for we'll be bold with his venison. But now, my Faustus, that thou mayst perceive what Rome contains, for to delight thine eyes, know that this city stands upon 7 hills that underprop the groundwork of the same. Just through the midst runs flowing Tiber's stream, with winding banks that cut it in 2 parts, over the which 2 stately bridges lean that make safe passage to each part of Rome. Upon the bridge called Ponte Angelo, erected is a castle passing strong. I'm so sorry, I'm going to sneeze.
Lengthy travelogue sequences will do that to people. It's the pollen count from foreign countries. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm allergic to travelogues. Right, let's do that again. Upon the bridge called Ponte Angelo, erected is a castle passing strong, where thou shalt see such store of ordnance that the double cannons, forged of brass, do match the number of the days contained within the compass of 1 complete year, beside the gates and high pyramids that Julius Caesar brought from Africa.
Now, by the kingdoms of infernal rule, of Styx of Acheron, and the fiery lake of ever-burning Phlegeton, I swear that I do long to see the monuments and situation of bright splendent Rome. Come, therefore, let's away.
Nay, stay, my Faustus. I know you'd see the Pope, and take some part of Holy Peter's feast, the which, in state and high solemnity, this day is held through Rome and Italy in honour of the Pope's triumphant victory.
Ah, sweet Mephistophilis, thou pleasest me. While I am here on earth, let me be cloyed with all things that delight the heart of man. My 24 years of liberty I'll spend in pleasure and in dalliance, that Faustus' name, whilst this bright frame doth stand, may be admired thorough the furthest land.
'Tis well said, Faustus. Come then, stand by me, and thou shalt see them come immediately.
Nay, stay, my gentle Mephistophilis, and grant me my request, and then I go. Thou knowest, within the compass of 8 days we viewed the face of heaven, of earth, and hell. So high our dragons soared into the air that, looking down, the earth appeared to me no bigger than my hand in quantity. There did we view the kingdoms of the world, and what might please mine eye I there beheld. Then, in this show let me an actor be, that this proud Pope may Faustus' cunning see.
Let it be so, my Faustus. But first, stay, and view their triumphs as they pass this way, and then devise what best contents thy mind by cunning in thine art to cross the Pope, or dash the pride of this solemnity, to make his monks and abbots stand like apes and point like antics at his triple crown, to beat the beads about the friars' pates, or clap huge horns upon the cardinals' heads, or any villainy thou canst devise, and I'll perform it, Faustus. Hark, they come. This day shall make thee be admired in Rome.
And they stand back to watch the show. We've left the A-text far behind now. Enter cardinals, France and Padua, some bishops of Lorraine and Reims, some bearing croziers, some pillars. There are monks and friars singing their procession. Then the Pope, Adrian, and Raymond, King of Hungary, with Bruno, who's a rival Pope, is led in chains. There are some attendants, etc.
Cast down our footstool.
Saxon Bruno, stoop, whilst on thy back his holiness ascends, St. Peter's chair and state pontifical.
Proud Lucifer, that state belongs to me, and thus I fall to Peter, not to thee.
To me and Peter shalt thou grovelling lie, and crouch before the papal dignity. Sound trumpets then, for thus St. Peter's heir from Bruno's back ascends St. Peter's chair.
A flourish while he ascends.
Thus as the gods creep on with feet of wool, long ere with iron hands they punish men, so shall our sleeping vengeance now arise, and smite with death thy hated enterprise. Lord Cardinals of France and Padua, go forthwith to our holy consistory, and read amongst the statutes decretal, that by the holy council held at Trent, the sacred synod hath decreed for him that doth assume the papal government without election and a true consent. Away, and bring us word with speed.
We go, my lord.
And exeunt Cardinals of France and Padua.
Lord Raymond?
And the Pope converses with Raymond to one side.
Go, haste thee, gentle Mephistophilis, follow the cardinals to the consistory, and as they turn their superstitious books, strike them with sloth and drowsy idleness, and make them sleep so sound that in their shapes thyself and I may parley with this Pope, this proud confronter of the emperor, and in despite of all his holiness, restore this Bruno to his liberty, and bear him to the states of Germany.
Faustus, I go.
Dispatch it soon. The Pope shall curse that Faustus came to Rome.
Exeunt Faustus and Mephistophilis.
Pope Adriana, let me have the right of law. I was elected by the emperor.
We will depose the emperor for that deed, to curse the people that submit to him. Both he and thou shall stand excommunicate and interdict from the church's privilege and all society of holy men. He grows too proud in his authority, lifting his lofty head above the clouds, like a steeple, overpeers the church, but will pull down his haughty insolence. And as Pope Alexander, our progenitor, trod on the neck of German Frederick, adding this golden sentence to our praise, that Peter's heirs should tread on emperors, and walk upon the dreadful adder's back, treading the lion and the dragon down, and fearless spurn the killing basilisk. So will we quell that haughty schismatic, and by authority apostolical depose him from his regal government.
Pope Julius swore to princely Sigismund for him and the succeeding popes of Rome to hold the emperors their lawful lords.
Pope Julius did abuse the church's rights, and therefore none of his decrees can stand. Is not all power on earth bestowed on us, and therefore, though we would, we cannot err. The silver belt, where it too is fixed, 7 golden seals, fast sealed with 7 seals, in token of our 7-fold power from heaven, to bind or loose, lock fast, condemn or judge, resign or seal, or whatso pleaseth us. Then he and thou and all the world shall stoop, or be assured of our dreadful curse, to light as heavy as the pains of hell.
Enter Faustus and Mephistophilis. They're dressed in the shapes of cardinals, of the cardinals who left earlier.
Now, tell me, Faustus, are we not fitted well?
Yes, Mephistophilis, and 2 such cardinals ne'er served a holy pope as we shall do. But while they sleep within the consistory, let us salute his reverend fatherhood.
Behold, my lord, the cardinals are returned.
Welcome, grave fathers. Answer presently. What hath our holy council there decreed concerning Bruno and the emperor, in quittance of their late conspiracy against our state and papal dignity?
Most sacred patron of the Church of Rome, By full consent of all the synod of priests and prelates, it is thus decreed that Bruno and the German emperor be held as lollards and bold schismatics and proud disturbers of the church's peace. And if that Bruno, by his own assent, without enforcement of the German peers, did seek to wear the triple diadem, and by your death to climb St. Peter's chair, the statutes decretal have thus decreed. He shall be straight condemned of heresy, and on a pile of faggots burnt to death.
It is enough. Here, take him to your charge. Bear him straight to Ponte Angelo, and in the strongest tower enclose him fast. Tomorrow, sitting in our consistory, with all our college of grave cardinals, we will determine of his life or death. Here, take his triple crown along with you, and leave it in the church's treasury. Make haste again, my good Lord Cardinals, and take our blessing apostolical.
Mephistophilis.
So was never devil thus blessed before.
Away, sweet Mephistophilis, be gone. The cardinals will be plagued for this anon.
And exit Faustus and Mephistophilis with Bruno, as well as also the Triple Crown, which they were just handed a second ago.
Go presently and bring a banquet forth, that we may solemnize St. Peter's feast, and with Lord Raymond, King of Hungary, drink to our late and happy victory.
They exit. We go straight into Act 3, Scene 2. There a Senate plays while the banquet is brought in, and then Faustus and Mephistophilis appear in their own shapes.
Now, Faustus, come, prepare thyself a mirth. Sleepy cardinals are hard at hand to censure Bruno that is posted hence, and on a proud paced steed as swift as thought flies o'er the Alps to fruitful Germany, there to salute the woeful emperor.
The Pope will curse them for their sloth today, that slept both Bruno and his crown away. But now, that Faustus may delight his mind, and by their folly make some merriment, sweet Mephistophilis, so charm me here, that I may walk invisible to all, and do whate'er I please, unseen of any.
Faustus, thou shalt. Then kneel down presently, whilst on thy head I lay my hand, and charm thee with this magic wand. First wear this girdle, then appear invisible to all are here. The planets 7, the gloomy air, hell and the Furies' forked hair, Pluto's blue fire and Hecate's tree, with magic spells so compass thee, that no eye may thy body see. So, Faustus, now for all their holiness, do what thou wilt, thou shalt not be discerned.
Thanks, Mephistophilis. Now, friars, take heed, for Faustus fear, lest Faustus make your shaven crowns to bleed.
Faustus no more. See where the cardinals come.
Okay, enter the cardinals, and actually quite a lot of people here are entering generally, the Pope and all the lords and stuff.
Welcome, Lord Cardinals. Come, sit down. Lord Raymond, take your seat. Friars, attend, and see that all things be in readiness, as best beseems this solemn festival.
First, may it please your sacred holiness to view the sentence of the Reverend Synod concerning Bruno and the Emperor.
What needs this question? Did I not tell you? Tomorrow we should sit in the consistory, and there determine of his punishment. You brought us word even now. It was decreed that Bruno and the cursed Emperor were by holy council both condemned, but loathed lollards and base schismatics. Then wherefore would you have me view that?
Your Grace mistakes. You gave us no such charge.
Who's Raymond?
Deny it not. We are all are witnesses that Bruno here was late delivered you with his rich triple crown to be reserved and put into the church's treasury.
By holy Paul, we saw them not.
Easy, you shall die, unless you bring them forth immediately. Hale them to prison, laid their limbs with gyves, false prelates, for this hateful treachery. Cursed be your souls to hellish misery.
And we can infer the attendants take out the cardinals as we return to agreement with the A text.
So they're safe. Now, Faustus, to the feast. The Pope had never such a frolic guest.
Lord Archbishop of Rheims, sit down with us.
I thank your holiness.
Fall to, the devil choke you in your spare.
Who's that spoke? Friars, look about. Lord Raymond, pray fall to. I'm beholding to the Bishop of Milan for this so rare a present.
I thank you, sir.
And Faustus snatches the dish.
How now? Who snatched the meat from me? Villains, why speak you not? My good Lord Archbishop, here's a most dainty dish. Was sent me from a cardinal in France.
Oh, I'll have that too.
Snatches the dish.
Lollards, to attend our holiness, that we receive such great indignity. Fetch me some wine.
Aye, pray do, for Faustus is a dry.
Lord Raymond, I drink unto your grace.
I pledge your grace.
And snatches the cup.
My wine gone too? Ye lubbers, look about. Find the man that doth this villainy, or by our sanctitude you all shall die. Pray, my lords, have patience with this troublesome banquet.
Is it your holiness? I think it may be some ghost crept out of purgatory, and now is come unto your holiness for his pardon.
It may be so. Go then, command our priests to sing a dirge, to lay the fury of this same troublesome ghost.
And exit an attendant as the Pope crosses himself.
How now, must every bit be spiced with a cross? Hey, then take that.
And strikes the Pope.
Oh, I'm slain! Help me, my lords! Oh, come and help me bear my body hence. Damned be his soul for ever for this deed.
And exit everyone except for Faustus and Mephistophilis.
Now, Faustus, what will you do now? If I can tell you, you'll be cursed with bell, book, and candle.
Bell, book, and candle, candle, book, and bell, backward and forward to curse Faustus to hell.
And enter the friars with bell, book, and candle for the dirge. Do join in at the chorus. Come, brethren, let's about our business with good devotion. Cursed be he that stole his holiness meat from the table.
Maledicat Dominus.
Thank you. Cursed be he that struck his holiness a blow on the face.
Maledicat
Dominus.
Cursed be he that struck Friar Sandalo a blow on the pate.
Maledicat Dominus.
Cursed be he that deserveth our holy dirge.
Maledicat Dominus.
Cursed be he that took away his holiness wine.
Maledicat Dominus.
And Mephistophilis and Faustus beats the friars, fling fireworks among them, and exit. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. I let it run through. It's very different from the A text in the sense there's a lot more papal business going on. And it's papal business that is very Tamburlaine the Greaty, isn't it? It's this moment of going, hi, can I use you as a footstool for a moment? And, you know, so it's... that feels very, very interesting bit of business to not be in the A text. And, you know, he gets the triple crown and he basically robs them. Before we get to the stuff that they both share, which is the sort of hitting the throwing chicken wings at the Pope sequence, which is how I like to think of it, and the singing at the end. And everyone who did King John with us by John Bale the other week will sort of recognise a lot of this scene. It's very similar isn't it? In the way that's flowing around, and some of the tone. Admittedly, Bale doesn't go quite so comedy slapstick with it as this does. But it's really two elements of this play which have made me ping back to John Bale, and I find that really interesting. It's probably a coincidence. It has absolutely nothing to do with it, but I just thought I'd flag that up. Okay, here is a problem with the book, and it's a problem with the play. The play has spent 2 acts going, you are damned, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible, and now suddenly we're into happy fun time, happy, let's have fun with Satan. And it's sort of like, guys, I know we're making fun of the other side of the confession, but again, Satan... the book has the same problem, so it's not the playwright's fault per se. But yeah, just thoughts on that, Lynn.
Well, yeah, the other problem is if Catholicism, in the view of a German-based writer, a Protestant writer, one assumes, the Pope is actually like Antichrist, or the Catholicism is invalid. Like, the Pope is the bad guy. The Pope is on the devil's side, but then they're making fun of the Pope. It's like the play really wants to have its cake and eat it. That want to make fun of the Pope, but
within this logic, the Pope should have his own demons. Within the logic of this. I'll go to David, then Sarah. David, you're muted at present.
Sorry, similar point, but just extending a bit further. I think that the Christians alleged Christians aren't behaving much better than the devils in this bit, and it seems that it's kind of undercutting an idea of the solemnity of Faustus's pact with the devil that we got from the earlier scenes.
Sarah?
Yeah, I actually like this version much better than the A text. I was kind of, because I have a memory like a goldfish, I was actually scrolling along with the A text. I had the A text up to see where the differences were and see like the massive section that was basically in this that isn't, which is why I missed my cue. Sorry about that. But actually, this version is far more satisfying, I think, structurally, for that reason, because you've got the Pope there. You don't just leap into like, oh, let's have fun and games with the Pope. You've got this kind of this sort of introduction with the Pope doing his thing and just being pretty awful. And then that kind of sets up I feel that's it's far better than just going straight into the let's like that, like snatch the dishes away and give him a bit of a poke. Let's poke the Pope, because you've actually you've set this character up and you've set up the world of the Pope, which isn't. It's kind of it's not. It doesn't represent heaven at all, and we see that in the Pope's actions and in his thoughts. It's like he's a really awful man, and this also really explains something that I've always really irritated me about the A text. When those friars come on and do the whole bell, book and candle thing, but by the kind of reason of this play, guess what? Hell exists. Heaven exists. Yes. God is mighty. Lucifer is in hell. All the rest of it. Really, that should really kind of deal with them. If this world that Marlowe's created is going to work and make sense, then they should both be banished by that, but they're not. And it's because the Pope's side is not the good side, doesn't represent heaven. It's just another facet of hell. And I think you get that so much more clearly in this version. And because of that, the transition between like, ooh, hell's hellish, and then, oh, let's have fun with Satan, it kind of works better because it's just more of the same thing. You get the fact that it's more of the same thing. It's not put up as a contrast. It's put up as a continuation of the show. With the demons. It's just these demons happen to look like cardinals and a pope.
Yeah, and it's fitted that there is more of the travelogue, which is not inherently more interesting, but it does also then the reason they go there is slightly more. Oh no, hang on, let's stay here. Let's move on to the next thing. No, let's hang it on here. And I think you're right. It feels like a complete sequence, whereas actually the A-text, now looking back at it, doesn't. It feels like this feels more complete and more worked through, and yeah, I like that. Lois, then Lynn.
Yeah. I guess if you're talking about the cursing of Faustus at the end, I've seen this where it was quite funny because the guy, one of the friars, is the friar Sandalo, who gets sort of specifically hit, and you get all this very solemn chanting, and then you suddenly get this guy who's putting his whole heart into it. Cursed be this for Friar Sandalo, and it became quite amusing. But I also remember, I think it was the first time I saw this, and it was a very long time ago at the Old Vic with, I think, John Neville. That's how long it was, long ago it was, as Faustus. And I remember that he started laughing hysterically at the whole idea that they were cursing him to hell, because of course he knew he was damned already. But I take it that the reason that the curse doesn't work here is that he's got 24 years, and so it can't take effect until he gets to the end of the contract.
Yes, but later on we have people who are holy who can't really be touched by Mephistophilis' magic when the old man turns up in the second half, and it's just that sense of here, they should be able to do something. They are all cardinals and bishops, but of course they're on the other side of the confession, and therefore that logic doesn't hold. Lynn.
Yeah, I thought Sarah's meditation was really interesting, and it kind of led me to the take that, okay, the Pope and the cardinals and stuff, that's not real religion. That's why their invocation doesn't work, because it's superstition. It's not true religion. And even so, they're kind of on the same side as the bad guys, but they're like so feckless. We can't even take them seriously. Yeah, they're kind of on our side, but we're gonna prank them because, come on, they're just humans. Like, so, and not only is the Pope not really holy, and and the friar's invocation of divine power it doesn't work. I mean, we can't even take him seriously.
Yeah, and I think also this depiction of the Pope and Catholicism here is different to, say, Eric mentioned it in the chat, the extremely long dialogue treatise that we read the first act of,
Unjust Primacy.
Yeah, the Bishop of Rome, with the unjust primacy, where he is almost basically literally the Antichrist, whereas here it's not as literal as that. It is much more interested in just they're not right, and therefore they have less power on that sort of level. Eric,
what I find interesting is that it seems to be like. He also mentions that the Pope is an enemy of the Emperor. I'm assuming of Germany at this point. So, like, is that sort of him trying to basically make an excuse that he's patriotic, therefore he can't, or like, is this like a religion and country thing, or is it more just me not understanding what's going on, or both?
I think there is an intersection of state politics and religious politics going on there. I think, and I think that this is something in that particular historical moment people would have got more out of than we would. I think we need to sit down and actually understand who these people actually were, and I can never remember anything about the sodding popes or the way all of that works. It's just so unbelievably complicated. I can't be bothered. So. Okay, we are into the area of final thoughts. I'm not really going to have time to go around everyone, but just a thought to throw out there. Anyone who wants to wave and say anything, do so. I have generally, historically speaking, been an A-text man because the A-text is shorter and easier to do. That said, I have genuinely quite liked some of the slight differences in line readings. I think there's give and take here and there. And just that sequence makes sense in a way. The A text, I'm going, shall I just cut this scene and just do the travelogue and move on to something else rather than just have this thing that's a bit of a block? And it does make a lot more sense. I think the plays always had this problem of squaring the circle that the book gives them, which is you get to the damnation and the signing of his soul, and then they have a travelogue sequence that goes on forever, which they've condensed down here. And then you've got this sequence, and you've got various other little jest book type stuff, and the playwrights try to make that work. And actually, it's not a circle you can wholly square. But I think this one does it a lot better. And it's also, this sequence is a very different kind of comedy business than the earlier comedy scenes that we had, which felt very integrated and very much like the playwrights are having fun with this, because it's not, those comedy scenes aren't really from the source material. There's bits of it you can infer from, but they've basically gone, let's create parallel lines to the A plot and do something interesting about class, and then let the clowns take it that bit further. And I've always found them more satisfying than this bit. But so far, I liked that more. Final thoughts around the room? Anyone wants to go in? I'll go to Errol and then Sarah.
Yeah, I was getting Dan Brown flashbacks with that Mephistophilis speech. You know, it was, I found this guidebook. I'll just do a cut and paste.
Oh yeah, here's a really good Wikipedia article. I will copy out. Yeah. The original book's even worse. It really doesn't go on. Yeah, Sarah.
Sorry, it just made me laugh. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah. So I have a question and then a final thought. Is that the main difference? That bit that we've just done, is that the main difference between the two texts, or is there more to come?
There are more variations to come. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is the only one where basically you look at the two texts side by side and then suddenly there's nothing in the A text or something. It's like we've had a few bits where there's a line here, there's a line different, there's a word choice that's a bit different, and actually one or two in this text weren't right. It got tweaked to the A text. I've changed in the master. Yeah, but basically it's run pretty smooth until Act 3, and then suddenly, bam, it's different.
Well, I have to say, so far at least, I'm a B text girl. I only knew the A text before today, and I am enjoying this way more. And the other thing I just wanted to say as a final thought was I just really enjoyed that little spell that Mephistophilis did to make Faustus invisible. It was just really, really fun. And I checked, and I don't think it's in the A text.
No,
and
it's not.
It's just kind of
it's bippity boppity boo, frankly.
It really is. And the thing is, I always think Mephistophilis is such a sardonic character. I think you could have really great fun with this. He's like, I mean, he could just probably click his fingers and do it, but he's like, no, Faustus will only really go for this if I do a big show. And so, I'm going to get my jazz hands out and, do a whole rigmarole. And I just think there is a lot of potential with that and with other bits and pieces as well.
I'd say I've been pulled more to the B text this time than I have. Any other thoughts anyone wants to throw in? David.
Yeah, just what's Faustus doing with all this power that he's got? He's bargained his soul away, and as you say, throwing chicken wings at the Pope is a big part of what he chooses to do with it. It always surprises me that he could be asking for huge amounts of wealth or to be personally the most powerful man in the world or something, and he chooses to flit around Europe and play a few practical jokes, really.
Yeah, because before he gets the power, he's going, I could add coastal defenses to Wittenberg. I can surround, a whole nation with cannon. For those who don't know the whole thing, wall of brass, it doesn't mean literally a brass wall. It means lots of cannon. It's, he could do all these things, and then he presumably has sex with lots of demons and steals food.
Kind of never gets around to it, you know.
Yeah,
It's like...
you know, is not real, and goes into railing. Basically, that's what he does. He's gone on his holidays, which I suppose in the early modern world that's quite a thing to be able to do. It's quite hard work traveling. Eric, then Lois.
Well, I mean, you know, Eurostar aside, what else are you going to do with your time other than pranking people? I mean, because he's lost his soul. He can have anything he wants, so at the click of his fingers. So I guess the only satisfaction he can have is like either through physical cardinal pleasure or like tricking people.
Yes, because he's been handed Wikipedia, and it's like, and he immediately comes on stage going, "Hang on, this isn't the deal. Give me some stuff." And he's like, "Yeah, no, that's all the stuff. It's like, you know, and you know, I'll do a TED talk. I'll do my Christmas lecture on how the planets work." And he's going, "But that's nothing." And it's like, yeah, he's Sorry, who was next? Was it Lois?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a problem inherent in the whole story, obviously, that it's difficult to think of anything that really would be worth selling your soul for. And so whatever you do with it, the problem is filling up that space between selling your soul and actually having to give it up. There was actually a very interesting series of plays at the Wanamaker. When they were doing Doctor Faustus, they also asked various playwrights to write a play about selling your soul to the devil. Just what would you do? You know, what would you sell your soul in order to get? And they got some very interesting responses. Some of them really quite scary. I mean, some of them, you know, were written from a position of believing that this could happen, or at least making you believe this could happen. But I think, and in performance, it's all a question of whether you actually do try to make it look as if Faustus is getting something for his money or not. I mean, in most productions, I think, for example, the Seven Deadly Sins pageant is kind of colorful, but there was one, I remember, where they were all hideous and you were meant to be seeing them as they really were, I think, not as Faustus saw them. So he'd be saying, "Oh, isn't this lovely?" And it was absolutely horrible. On the other hand, that production I mentioned, which I still remember because it was the first time I saw it, they really did make it kind of a joyride. And Faustus was having this amazing time. And it's only toward the end that he starts realizing that it's all going to come to an end. So I think that, you know, it's more complex maybe than it seems. I've certainly felt this version was mainly funny. And I think that a lot of the plays that people liked in that period, and we know they liked this one, they liked because there was a great deal of humor in them, not really for the stuff that we think is so exciting, the really impressive speeches, which are actually rather few in number.
Well, yeah, but actually, in terms of how stable the text is, the serious speeches are the ones that pretty much remain the same. They might tweak them, or there might be a slight variation here or there. It's the comedy business that they're constantly trying to make work. And that's not inherently to make it work. It's probably just they've got a different clown and they don't like this business. Or they've got something else up their sleeve. So I think it's always that's about the ephemerality of comedy, of just going, well, this bit needs... But it is baked into the text. It's not like these are all additions. It's just... the comedy business has been reworked or swapped. It's like that earlier scene where I was pointing out, you know, the shape of that scene, the idea they picked up a magic book is the same in both versions, but what they say is totally different. Almost none of that dialogue is the same in each version. Presumably say because the clowns got at it and went, nah, this isn't my shtick. I want my shtick, and they give it another pass. Eric, and then I must close the session.
Well, yeah, but also it's that thing of sort of, if you make the comedy really, really funny, then the final sort of him losing his soul and all that stuff. It's kind of like, I can't remember if it's in not Revenger's Tragedy or Duchess of Malfi, but like, you know, the funnier you make the funny parts, the even more jarring it will be when the audience gets hit by a train or bullet train and realizes that, actually, wait, this is actually quite bad. You can't have like limitless fun without suffering the consequences.
Yes, the hangover is quite extensive. Anyway, sadly, we have run out of time, so there is no more to be said at this particular time. So all that remains is thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. See you next time, and goodbye. Que sera, sera.